Making headlines tonight, a surprise strike by the SSA workers this morning. The Attorney General warns some criminals are as well equipped as the police. Classes cut short at a secondary school. And coming up in sports, the Windies coach expresses disappointment at today's shock defeat to Scotland.
The CBC NewsNight headlines are brought to you with the compliments of Courtesy Garage Limited, celebrating 100 years of legendary service, legendary performance.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Management of the Sanitation Services Authority has deemed this morning's work stoppage a wildcat strike. The head office at Wildy saw workers refuse to take up their assignments at various levels. In a statement to the media, Operations Manager Michael Nichols explained what triggered the action.
The strike this morning was wildcat in nature, and based on information shared by the worker representative, was triggered by the transfer of an employee and the disconnection of a prohibited stove. All approved amenities such as microwave and refrigerator remain available. This is very disappointing in that recently the worker representative met with the chairman and management on a number of real matters that they had raised in a letter of June to an agreement coming out of that meeting as to which issues were supported and advanced.
The National Union of Public Workers responded to the situation, with General Secretary Richard Green informing CBC News they realized that there was indeed a transfer and the removal of an appliance. He told CBC some of the other unresolved matters are hazard pay, washing allowance, salary increases, uniforms, appointments, care of duty and processing of leave. He said the NUPW engaged management on how the issues could be resolved. Classes at the Spring Memorial Secondary School were cut short this morning when traces of smoke as well as an obnoxious odor were detected at the Government Hill institution. Fire officials from the Bridgetown Fire Service, led by Station Officer Roger Bourne, were quickly on the scene around 20 minutes after 11 to investigate. A search of the school plant revealed that a tree on an adjacent property had caught fire. Station Officer Bourne says they quickly put out the blaze.
I then carried out a thorough investigation, which took me a little while, going from property to property to figure out which property it was. On arrival at this property, it was closed at the time, but then I went to the adjacent property and recognized that it was a tree fire, and the tree fire was still going. I then reached out to our dispatch department and asked them to send on the water appliance from Bridgetown Fire Station, which they did, and managed to extinguish the tree fire.
Cardiovascular diseases have been identified as the major causes of morbidity and mortality in Barbados, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness will be looking at aggressive ways to reduce the sugar and salt contents of foods on the island. To that end, a workshop to create strategies was conducted today at the Hilton Hotel. Many of the island's top health officials, including Chief Medical Officer Dr. the Most Honorable Kenneth George, were on hand for the opening ceremony of the two-day workshop at Needham's Point. The workshop will seek to raise awareness of the impact of salt and sugar on health, engage stakeholders to secure a gradual and sustained reduction of salt and sugar, promote a comprehensive policy approach to facilitate dietary changes, and engage the relevant parties to focus on stocking low salt and sugar options of branded processed foods. Minister of State in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Sonia Brown, said non-communicable diseases are the leading causes of preventable morbidity, related disability, and premature death in Barbados.
There are 4 groups of these diseases. Cardiovascular diseases, which include, among others, hypertension, heart attack, strokes, peripheral vascular diseases, cancers, breast, prostate, colon, cervical being the main causes of cancer in our public health setting. Chronic respiratory diseases, example asthma, and chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, and diabetes mellitus. And these have 4 common risk factors: tobacco use, harmful use of alcohol, physical inactivity, and unhealthy diets.
Regarding front of package labeling, which is essentially a warning label used to assist customers in making healthier choices, Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Business Development, Sandra Husbands, said it's urgently needed.
So we must therefore work with stakeholders who manufacture products as well as importers of goods to transition smoothly to use and comply with front of package labeling. Too many companies are playing the short game by resisting the change to the labeling. Because to kill your customers in the long term really is not good business.
PAHO WHO representative to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Dr. Amalia Del Riego, says NCDs are devastating the region.
There are an estimated 200 million people out of 1 billion in the Americas who are living with NCDs. In the Caribbean, 3 out of 4 people die from NCDs. Close to 40% of those deaths are premature. That means in the age group from 30 to 70 years old. The trend in Barbados is like the rest of the Caribbean, where NCDs are the leading causes of death. It is very clear with these figures that NCDs are overwhelming health services and challenging their sustainability in Caribbean countries while impeding progress toward universal health.
The workshop ends tomorrow. The National Monument Design Competition to determine which locally designed creation will take pride of place on the spot where the Nelson statue once stood is entering its final month before the eventual winner is chosen. During a ceremony this morning at Sky Mall, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office with Responsibility for Culture, Senator Dr. Chantal Munro-Knight, gave an update on the competition while also announcing the 10 finalists and presenting the entrants in the competition with certificates of participation. In her remarks, the minister reiterated that government is committed to transparency as competition continues. She adds that the competition was embarked upon within the context of the season of emancipation.
A season that was for us about reflection, it was about celebration and looking forward as we examine and unpack that big issue of culture and heritage and what it means for us as Barbadians, particularly in the context of the new republic and this journey that we are on. It was important for us also as well to have a process in which the average Barbadian also had an opportunity to be able to define what that space would look like.
The minister adds that the removal and subsequent conversation to replace Nelson's statue was also a key factor.
Though we launched the competition in the context of the season of emancipation, we started prior to ask Barbadians what they would like to see replace Nelson's statue. And so we started that, and then we came, based on the consensus and what we saw people submitting, the average Barbadians, on this notion of the celebration of the family. And that says something very fundamental to us. First of all, it says that there is an understanding within our society that the family is extremely important. It is an undergirding element of who we are, and particularly in the context of the season of emancipation.
Dr. Munro-Knight says the next phase of the competition will see the announcement of the top 3 participants. They will then be invited to submit further detailed designs, including 3D designs, by November 18th. The committee will then invite them to have a meeting on November 23rd to have additional discussions, and then the winner will be announced on November 25th to coincide with the island's Republic celebrations. Coming up, Bieber reports growth in the country. An attempt by a group of men to avoid a routine police traffic exercise in St. Lucie resulted in injuries and arrests. Police say the incident happened yesterday around 3 p.m. The vehicle trying to evade the lawmen crashed into another car, leaving 2 people injured. According to police, a traffic exercise was in the area of Bourbon Road when the vehicle sped away and police followed. They observed the driver of the vehicle losing control in a corner, colliding with another vehicle and overturning. 5 people were in the vehicle which tried to evade the police, and while 2 of them escaped on foot, 3 were taken into police custody. The 2 occupants of the vehicle they crashed into were injured and taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for treatment. Investigations are continuing. Criminals with guns in Barbados are often as well equipped as the police. This revelation from Attorney General Dale Marshall, who's been making the point that policing today is very different from years ago.
In the case of gun crime, which I know concerns all of you, they are oftentimes as well equipped as the police service. I highlight this not to alarm you, but to underscore why it is so important for the public represented today by this congregation to play its part by assisting the police in every way possible. I've said it before, I can't say enough. If you see something, say something.
The Attorney General was speaking during a service at the Calvary Temple Community Church to support lawmen, particularly in the light of the gun violence in recent months. He also noted that concern about the crime situation is not restricted to Barbados.
Crime continues to be a major concern for the Barbadian public. And I take no solace in the fact that we are having a similar situation across the region, but it tells us that there's something happening that is not just local. In fact, only last week at a meeting in Jamaica, the Council of Law Enforcement Ministers and Ministers of National Security resolved that it was important for us to host in the region a special meeting to look at violence as a public health issue.
The global business environment in Barbados is performing well, with the Barbados International Business Association reporting enhanced ranking in the captive insurance sector. This was revealed on last evening's The People's Business program, which highlights global business opportunities and challenges. Executive Director of BIBA, Carmel Haynes, said since the pandemic, Barbados has seen great growth, and AM Best has even given the island a ranking which shows it is apace with jurisdictions like Cayman Islands and Bermuda, which are leaders in captive insurance.
Companies or even organizations such as universities, hospitals, etc., who are having challenges getting commercial insurance at reasonable rates, or even having some of the risks that they want covered, perhaps in relation to loss of employees during the pandemic, etc. And we're having challenges on the market, the international market for insurance, and couldn't find the particular rates or the coverage they were looking for. They chose to set up companies, insurance companies, where they could reinsure their own risks. And we actually saw quite a bit of growth. Barbados is ranked in the top 6 for captive insurance domiciles in the world.
Also on last night's program was Kevin Hunt, Director of the International Business Division in the Ministry of Energy and Business. He said a number of local agencies were stepping up their operations to create an easier operations climate for global business here.
There have been tremendous strides made within our immigration department, and our immigration department is being lauded really and truly as one of the departments that is held up as a standard bearer in terms of their turnaround and how they've been able to revamp and reinvent the various processes and produce results. And so I think that once we keep on this trajectory, as a government, we are international business. We're also employing the use of technologies on various digital platforms. Once we keep on this track in terms of using technology, once we keep on the track of ensuring that the human personnel are both equipped and trained, I think that Barbados is well on the way to becoming truly that destination of choice for global business.
Sports time now, and we head over to the sports studio. Sean Green, who's been yawning all day because he broke up his night rest watching Windies early in the morning. Sean, what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, good night to you, Shane. West Indies head coach Phil Simmons was critical of his side for their batting effort. The Windies, ranked 7th in the world, had gone into the game as overwhelming favourites against a Scottish side that sits at 15th. Now, their defeat the day after Sri Lanka were resoundingly beaten by another associate nation in Namibia means that the tournament has now sprung into life with shocks on its first 2 days and leaves the top-ranked teams in both rounds fighting for their survival.
I think it's just too many soft dismissal. I think as batsmen you have to pay a lot more attention to your wicket, and I think every time we play we're up there with the run rate, Doesn't matter who we're playing against, but we keep losing wickets and soft wickets. So I think we've been trying to remedy it for the last couple of months. Doesn't seem like it's there yet.
Well, Simmons also denied that changes made to the batting order was a key reason for the team's struggles.
I don't think so. I think it's a case where this game, people need to be able to go up to make a difference. You go up, sometimes a batsman goes up and he has to propel his side with 10 balls, 15 or 10 balls, 20. And, so guys have to bat in different positions. Today there was no real different positions. I think guys are batting where they are strong. We talk about looking at data and looking at different things. Guys are batting where they're strong. So I don't think that would be used as an excuse today.
Government's annual energy bill is $600 million. Word of this from Minister of State in the Ministry of Energy and Business, Sandra Husbands, at the unveiling of a 20-year time capsule at Courtesy Garage. Calling the occasion a milestone for the company, Ms. Husbands said her ministry is continuing to deepen its collaboration with other government agencies and the private sector to address usage and consumption of fossil fuel to ensure Barbados' 2030 vision is realized.
Conversion from fossil fuel use to electricity, transportation management, clean energy use, and emissions control within the transportation sector. This, in turn, will result in a sector that includes, but is not limited to, the operation of a greater percentage of electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles in the local fleet, utilization of a skilled workforce to provide effective maintenance on electric vehicles, a greater number of renewable energy systems installed that can be used as charging stations for electric vehicles, carports, and charging stations, and the reduction of duties on the importation of electric vehicles.
The minister said the initiatives of the energy policy will generate jobs in the sector and called for support for the industry.
A critical component will be the training of a cadre of technicians to install, operate, and maintain these new green transportation technologies. Consequently, much will be required to establish suitable infrastructure for increased use of electric vehicles and other vehicles powered by alternative fuels.
With the embrace of remote work because of the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the Barbados Employers Confederation found a number of businesses were not fully equipped to accommodate it. Executive Director Sheena Mears-Granville stressed that given the circumstances, though rushed, it had to be done. She says while some employees were eager to work remotely, others were resistant. She, however, notes without the proper structure, an employer cannot continue with this mode of work in the long term. The BEC official was the latest guest on the one-on-one series hosted by the Public Affairs Department.
What we have been advising persons, and what we've advised them in the past, is you have to look at your organizational structure. You have to look at your organizational culture, which is very critical. And then look at the needs of your customers when you're looking at remote work policies. The reality is every job cannot be done remotely. And I know sometimes that throws up issues of fairness. So why can this person work from home and I can't? That type of thing. But remote work is one of those things that it can be good and it can be bad. And it doesn't work for everyone in every situation.
Ms. Mears-Granville says every request from an employee working remotely or even an employer may not be reasonable. She adds companies have to match the benefit versus the cost when employees start demanding things that seem unreasonable.
In terms of health and safety concerns, working from home, cost of electricity, cost of internet, etc., I ask people to consider, is it an increased expense to you? That's one. Two, are you saving on other things? So are you saving on gas versus those types of things? So there's still a balance, because if as an employer you're asking me to pay for all of these things, then it might be cheaper for me to pay rent and for you to come into the office. So you have to look at finding that balancing act.
All right, time to head back on over to the sports studio and welcome back Sean for the second half in sports.
Well, thank you very much, Shane. We're going to talk some volleyball. Deacon's men confirmed their repeat title win after ending the Goddard's Enterprises Limited Division 1 League tournament with a win over Stars United in last night's action at the Wildy Gym. However, Burger King Clapham Toners, with the crown in sight, will have to wait a bit longer after struggling to defeat Phoenix Security Services Carlton in 4 sets, while defending champions UWA Blackbirds were held on to their slim hopes after repeating after downing the Chargers in 3 straight sets.
UWA Blackbirds back in our camera, taking on Chargers and off to a good start with this serve from Nikita Wickham. Wait, is that Dania Hamilton dancing? Dana Bob sending down a serve of her own from the Chargers cap, allowing Afia Taylor to set up Shakira Smiley Hall for the kill, but she dinks them. Then when Taylor had the opportunity to serve, she made the most of it. Chargers not too sure what to do with that. Hall serving to Chargers, Latifah Wood with some offense, but that's taken care of by the Blackbirds. And the Chargers will get another bite out their cherry. Compliments Shayna Bradshaw, and this time the Blackbirds had their feathers ruffled. Chargers again with the serve, and a good one too. But this Blackbird Hamilton wanted to fly, but had her wings clipped by the Chargers defense at the net. Another serve from Chargers, and once again Hamilton gets another chance, and this time she would make the Chargers pay, finding her mark with this kill. Hamilton then returned to drop an ace in the hole as the Blackbirds went on to win in 3 straight at 13, 16 and 16. This next game between Carlton, with their backs to us, and Toners was a lot more competitive and went right down to the wire. Good serve from the Toners. Toners didn't allow Carlton much room, especially in the early stages. See what I mean? Not a sniff. But despite it being competitive, Toners always seemed one step ahead. That was a free ball that came back, and they immediately formulated a plan and executed it well. Precision, placement, power, perfection. And from there, Toners went on to win 25-16, 20-25, 25-12, 23-25, 15-4.
Well, all 19 senior athletes who recently represented Barbados at the Huntsman's Games in Utah have qualified for the World Senior Olympics next summer in Pittsburgh. The team returned home with a whopping 62 medals from the 3 days of competition, including 23 gold, 26 silver and 13 bronze. Now, coach of the team, Sandra Murray, says she's happy with the team's performance and the qualifications.
We are very proud of the way the athletes performed. Everybody gave of their best at all times. And what I must say, yes, it looks as we have been successful now, but the major aim of this opportunity is for us to qualify for Pittsburgh, which is the American Nationals, as Kathy had said, which is in July. So what is going to happen now? We may look successful now, but we'll take a couple of weeks off and then we'll start the hard work all over again. It is not all fun and games. We're going to start working all over again so we can be more prepared, better prepared for Pittsburgh, July 2023 for the American Nationals.
Well, athlete Kathy Harper Hall, who competed in the 80 to 84 age group category, is encouraging even more senior Bajans to get active.
We are using this as part of the active aging process. We all believe in aging actively, and I want to take this opportunity to implore my seniors to try to age actively. We're looking forward to our own senior games here. I hope the government is listening. And we are looking forward to our own senior game next year so that we can better prepare for the international scene.
That's our news. Good night and be good. Thanks for visiting us. To get more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.